One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.
Greetings, this is Tai Brown and welcome to One Question. Our guest today is Matt Doyle. Matt is currently the Senior Associate Athletics Director and Director of Football Operations and Player Programs at Stanford. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ty. I love the show.
Now, Matt, you've been there for 18 years, correct?
Correct.
And you've been through 5 head coaches, 6 athletics directors, and I don't know if you've been through a couple presidents, but that is a tremendous amount of change at the leadership level. And I guess it takes somebody with a special set of skills to be able to last through those. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I would say there has been a lot of changes over the years, and one of the things that I attacked when these changes occurred was I just embraced the change. I rolled with it. I took it as a new opportunity to learn new skills and learn new personalities and learn about the various head coaches and athletic directors and what's important to them and just sort of adapted to it. And it's been a crazy, crazy experience over the last 18 years. Like you said, 5 head coaches, 6 athletic directors, hundreds of assistant coaches, strength coaches, trainers, equipment guys, et cetera, over the years. So I've been exposed to a lot of great ideas, a lot of great people, and built some unbelievable relationships that have really helped me professionally and personally in my life. It's been pretty exciting.
Well, that's a testament to you because as a lot of us know, head coaches are very specific about who they want around them. And for 5 different head coaches to keep you around, that says that you are someone special that they kept around. Now, I brought you on today, Matt. I wanted to ask you specifically about the DFO position. Here at Stanford, you progressed from the Director of Football Operations to Senior Associate Athletics Director at Stanford. You still have the Director of Football Operations in your title. I've seen this at a number of institutions. People progress to work in administration or work on the administration side, but still work with football. Can you give us some insight on that progression and how it benefits both the football program and the athletics administration office?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a natural connection. In football operations, you deal with so many different areas, so many different personalities, so many departments from both the athletic department and across campus and in the community. So it's really important that you have a pretty good understanding of all of those areas, whether it's facilities, compliance, fundraising, alumni relations, certainly the external groups like marketing and the ticket operations, and nowadays social media and media relations. So there's just so many different areas that you touch. So it's a very natural position to be both in football ops and cross over into a senior associate athletics director position. It's really critical that you build great relationships with the people you work with in all these departments, because you do rely on them for so many things, and along the way you end up building up a great skill set. I have a pretty firm grasp of what almost all of these departments require and what their personalities are like and what their structure is like. So it's been a really beneficial thing for me professionally, but it's also something that I think is very natural for a DFO to be involved with. And it's something where a lot of DFOs you'll start to see. It's a fairly new position, the last 20 years or so.
Right.
But you'll start to see a lot more DFOs progressing into senior positions because they've developed those skills over time, and I think that's absolutely critical to the job as well.
Now you're in a unique position because you serve as the liaison to the athletics department for football, but you report to Coach Shaw, head football coach, and you also have to report to the athletics director. Tell us about that structure and really the progression to that structure.
Yeah, I have a dual reporting. I mean, my office is in the football suite. My direct day-to-day boss is David Shaw. But we all answer to the athletic director, and the athletic director, of course, answers to the provost and the president. So there is a structure in place that is actually very beneficial for all of us. I'm somebody who can have meetings on the other side of the building, on the other side of campus, but then be heavily involved with the football side of what we do. We've got practice in 45 minutes. I'll be out on the field, but later today I'll be meeting with other folks around the athletics community and sort of crossing over between those two worlds, and I think that's a very important part of the process. I started off in recruiting and then did that for a couple of years and then went into football operations and then just slowly progressed over time. And I think it's been something where it's not like you just jump right into a position like this. You have to learn a lot about what it takes, and that's kind of been the process for me over time.
Right, and it seems to be working well there at Stanford. You talked about all the experiences you've gained. You talked about touching many of the departments in athletics and, of course, everything in football. There are a very small number of athletic directors out there who were DFOs at some point in their career, and they progressed to that AD chair. From your perspective, do you see the evolution of responsibilities similar to yours of the DFO position producing more future athletic directors?
Yeah, and I really hope that more DFOs get an opportunity. There's a committee that we have, or an organization that we have, the Football Operations National Committee. This past year we had over 150 individuals in the room in Atlanta, and we had some really productive meetings. We've been doing that for about 10 years. But in the room, there are absolutely some of the best and brightest in the athletics world, just rising stars. And a big part of that is because, number one, their experience across so many different departments in athletics, but also just the rise of college football. It's become such a big business that the business side of college football makes it so you must be at your highest and your best when you're dealing with a lot of these issues. And football happens to be at the forefront. If you look at all the different changes in NCAA legislation, if you look at all the facility arms races, if you look at fundraising, I mean, all of these things are in a lot of ways, football's a huge part of that. And so when you have someone involved in football who is at the forefront, like a DFO, it's a natural for them to be progressing towards a DFO chair. I think it would be a great situation someday where almost every open AD position featured at least one candidate who has some football operations experience, because I think they're in a position to deal with all of those areas: alumni relations, donor relations, scheduling, travel, compliance, facilities, sports medicine, strength and conditioning. I mean, every area you can think of falls under the category of a football ops person, at least in the world that I live in, but that's also how it is in most places. Facility projects are obviously a big part of an AD. Fundraising is a big part of an AD's job. All those things just fall directly under a DFO's range of responsibility, so it's a natural. Now, of course, there's a lot of ADs that come from the fundraising world, and there's a lot of ADs that might come from the business world or the external relations world, but there's only a few of us out there that have had a chance to become an athletic director, and that came from the DFO world, and I'm hoping that in the future more opportunities are given, because that room in Atlanta was filled with a lot of really good people that should be ADs at some point down the road, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
Right. Well, I guess it would take, like a Bernard Muir or some of the other ADs out there who have or have had people on their staff similar to yourself who operate in a role similar to yours to be champions for you when positions come open, or if they wanted to recommend someone for a position that could lead to an athletics director chair.
Sure, absolutely. And Bernard's background was in football. He before he became the athletic director at Georgetown, he was working at Notre Dame and was heavily involved in their football side. And Bob Bowlesby, before he became the AD at Northern Iowa, was on the facility side. So it does take some high level of expertise in certain departments, obviously, to become an athletic director. But the thing I like most about the DFO role is that they are involved in so much, and I think that's a model that we should definitely take a look at down the road.
Well, you've worked for some people who have been very successful. We talked about Bernard Muir, Bob Bowlesby. The coaches you've worked for, they were either successful at Stanford or successful somewhere else. You worked for Tyrone Willingham, Bill Walsh, Buddy Tevens, Jim Harbaugh, now David Shaw. Every one of those coaches are known for being winning and actually influencing football and influencing the players they coach. Can you give us one or two things that you learned from all the various leaders that you've worked for in your tenure there at Stanford? Sure.
Yeah, so Tyrone Willingham was the first coach I worked for, and one of the things I learned most from him, which you probably see if people that know Tyrone, is he's extremely poised. He's very everything's under control, everything's organized. There's no chaos with Coach Willingham, and that was something that I tried to carry over from my experience with him. Under Buddy Tevens, he came in at a time when the facilities arm race was just starting up, and he did a great job here of recognizing that we needed to make some changes in the facilities world, and he got the ball rolling the first time with new locker rooms and new weight rooms, and did some stuff in the football department. Bill Walsh is a legend. He's a pioneer, and the opportunity that I had every once in a while just to sit down with Coach Walsh and talk to him about life and football. And one of the things that he always tried to push was to make sure you don't lose sight of the other side of the world that these student athletes live in, and making sure that you know them as people, and that you can teach them something that's not football related or not sports related. And he was known for that. He would always, even at the 49ers training camp, he would integrate something into the day that had nothing to do with football or nothing to do, with sports, just to make sure that the guys were well-rounded. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh brought a ton of enthusiasm and changed the culture here. David Shaw, is a great coach, a leader of men, somebody who's taken a lot of what I just mentioned and tied it all together. And so that's been a great thing to see. And then, of course, the athletic directors that I've worked for over time as well have all presented great opportunities for Stanford. I think the biggest issue the biggest connection is that Stanford does bring great people together, and it's a great working environment. And it sounds cliche, but everyone's really happy to be here, and we have great student athletes to work with that make our jobs a lot easier. And I think all of that tied together is what is a great recipe for success, and I've been fortunate to experience it for 18 years.
Yeah, you've been through a lot of leadership change, and again, I'll say it's a testament to your character, to your work ethic, for everyone to keep you around, and the importance to head coaches of the football operations position. And you've been instrumental in helping that to get that national committee set up so everybody can operate from the same page on what's important to the game, to the players, to the coaches you work for, to the programs that you currently are employed by. And so I just want to say that I appreciate knowing you, appreciate you being on One Question today. Yeah,
I appreciate you having me, and the relationship that we've built over years is a great testament to that as well. Tying in the AFCA, tying in what you're doing now, and also you recognizing the value that the DFO serves in the athletics community is much appreciated by all. Thanks so much for having me, Ty.
That was Matt Doyle, Senior Associate Athletics Director and Director of Football Operations and Player Programs at Stanford. And this is Tai Brown, signing off.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.